Do you gamble? What percentage chance of winning or losing would you accept before rolling the dice? An almost certain 90%? An optimistic 75%? And even 50-50? Or lower? A risky 25%? An almost impossible 5%? I try not to gamble on principle, but maybe I'll start soon. I've only recently started playing Disco Elysium. I'm only a few hours in, but the game has already captivated me. I don't mean its sweetly melancholic setting, like that in a painting by the master painters of the times of old. Neither do I mean its characters so vividly written that they could easily jump out of the screen and live a life on their own. I also don't mean its dialogues, which range from the description normal, whatever that means, and peculiar, up to what can be only described as unhinged. No. I was captivated by the local skill check system. It's nothing groundbreaking. Games like the tabletop RPGs Dungeons & Dragons, Call of Cthulhu and Pathfinder, as well as, for example, the still kind of recent smash hit Baldur's Gate 3, have had this figured out a long time ago. In short, you have a very particular set of skills, each with a certain value which, together with a dice roll, determines whether and how successful or unsuccessful your character's chosen action was. In less elaborate games or games of a different genre, this would result in the end of the game, a game over. What would come next would be loading of a previously made save. This can also be done in Disco Elysium. Some skill checks will harm the main character to the point that you can die within the first 30 seconds of the game. Some skill checks can be tried repeatedly, but I usually didn't have the urge to do this unless it was absolutely necessary to progress in the game. But I haven't encountered many such cases yet. The key thing is that even if you fail the vast majority of skill checks, it won't be the end of the world. Life, or rather the game in this case, goes on. On the contrary, sometimes with losing the dice roll, instead of the usual progression in the story, you get something completely turned upside down. Something that you will either brag about for the rest of your life, or something that you will want to forget ASAP. The best example of all is the escape without paying at the beginning of the game. The main character gets the opportunity to use the skill check Slip Away unnoticed. If he succeeds the check, he runs to the exit, only to immediately hear the words behind him, "Real mature, man. Real mature." If he fails, he runs like the wind and suddenly turns around to furiously give not one raised middle finger, but two to the person he is running away from. He also either thinks or outright utters, let's say, very creative lines of dialogue. However, it doesn't last long, because the main character noticed too late that there was a lady in a wheelchair in his trajectory of movement. Boom. Darkness. But it doesn't last long. The game, like life, goes on. However, what the Dungeon Master in Dungeons & Dragons usually arranges on the spot with the help of the player's imaginations, here everything is all carefully prepared beforehand. But Disco Elysium is far from the only game where failure does not stop the player's progression. The game studio Quantic Dream, known mainly by the name of its founder David Cage, has several games under its belt, especially Heavy Rain and Detroit Become Human, where you can even lose the main character's life, but it does not stop the game. The player can also, similarly to Disco Elysium's fashion, fail to pass the skill checks in the form of QuickTime events. Then players will encounter such absurd scenes as this legendary video. Similarly, a popular game from a small indie studio which often appeared among the best games of the year last year. Clair Obscur Epi. No, what can you imagine? I'm thinking of Hades 2 and its predecessor Hades by extension. The game continues regardless of whether the player succeeds in their actions or not, all elegantly intertwined with the plot. In short, a roguelite par excellence. Another, in my opinion, somewhat overlooked game from the same studio is very similar. This classification is, like the previous one, a bit of a cheat. Pyre, the name of the game, is not only a fantasy visual novel and an RPG, but also a free-on-free basketball simulator. It is not that different to the one in the real world. To paraphrase a classic quote, life is like a basketball match. Even if you lose, sooner or later there will be another match. However, life is not like a program. Unless we live in the Matrix or some other simulation, it is very unlikely that there is a programmer or other entity behind what happens to us. We are largely responsible for that ourselves. This would mean that nowhere in any source code or whatever you want to call it is it written whether we will win or lose in what we do, whether we will reap the sweet fruits of success or experience the bitter taste of defeat, or when or how. And it doesn't matter what it is that we are currently gambling on, whether it is applying for a raise at work, wooing a new romantic partner, trying a new flavor of Cafola, kicking a ball in the direction of the goal, or simply rolling a dice in a board game. The chance of success and winning exists, but unfortunately, like in Disco Elysium, we don't see exact percentages of our chances. Which is good, on the other hand. Maybe we would then feel regret if we were to lose when we had a great chance of success. A loss sometimes brings us to our knees, but it almost never stops us completely, unless we gamble too much with too little chance of winning. Maybe we will be humbled. Maybe we will become more experienced. Maybe losing will open doors for us that we didn't even know existed. And maybe, just maybe, we will win. Either way, life goes on anyway. So why not try to gamble a little in moderation and sensibly?